Behold the secret origin of Mjolnir, Thor's hammer. What's up, everybody? I'm Stan, and welcome to Detail Comics, where we go over comics in detail. This iRate review is going to be about Mighty Thor number 12, which isn't one you'd expect me to be reviewing. But the cool thing about this book is that it's a one-shot story that ties in to one of the most important artifacts in the Marvel Universe, and that is Mjolnir, the hammer that Thor wields with a vengeance. So this is going to be relatively complicated simply because there's so many different stories about the origin of Thor's hammer, and they all kind of hit on major points that Jason Aaron really goes into depth on. And everybody really knows it's made of Uru metal, which is indestructible. It was hammered out by dwarves in the heart of a dying star, all that kind of stuff. You know, whether you're looking at the movies or you're looking at comic books, it hits on all those major points. However, what this does is it introduces a concept that would allow it ultimately to be used in the manner that it was in issue 10 and 11, where it was kind of projecting its own image of Jane Foster out there to assist, its own magical kind of construct outside in the realm. And then it also kind of explains how it has kind of an attitude of its own. So let's go a little bit more in depth as to what this really regards. So we open up the book with Thor rocketing through space, ends up in this kind of god pantheon place, a library of all knowledge, where she is really asking about why the hammer brought her there. And the librarian, or the High Lord of Librarians, whatever you want to call him, he basically starts talking to her about what they would call the storm. So ultimately there was this cosmic storm that initiated with the birth of the universe. And between this and a conflict that Odin was part of, there was an invasion in the dwarven realm. He goes in, he betters the combatants, he saves the dwarves because he knew that they were important to the Nine Realms, and their forges were masterful. They were the best craftsmen, and they were important in that respect. So he was looking to save them for his own purposes. And then once they were saved, they gave him the gift of Uru. And the Uru metal is an indestructible alloy that was, thought to be a remnant of the first materials of the Big Bang. And they mined it from deep within the earth, that kind of stuff. And he's just like, okay, I got a rock. And he's like a total asshole about it. He's really like a giant jackass. So after he's done being a giant jackass, then what we have is a situation where, as one of the most powerful beings in the Marvel universe, like cosmic level kind of power comes out of Odin, he is faced with the judgment of this storm, almost known to be sentient, that goes throughout the cosmos and basically rains down its judgment upon those that it deems are necessary. They need that kind of reining in. And that's where it came to the Asgardians. And Odin, being the Allfather, came out and battled it for days. This torrent of a space storm that scattered the space sharks, which was ridiculous, but cool. I'll take it. So he basically shatters this storm after days and days and throws everything that he has at it in terms of his dark magic and his power. The Odin-force is strong with him, and he expels almost all of it trying to take down this mother storm because it was, at the birth of the universe. And to finally resolve that issue, he traps it inside this chunk of Uru metal that was given to him by the dwarves. So knowing that that is the case, he calls the dwarves forward and has them forge it into a weapon that would be used by him. It would be his greatest achievement as a warrior to bear this weapon. That is where we get the story of the dying star, because ultimately the dwarves heated their forges for 3 days, captured all the heat, and still couldn't do it. So that way they chained a star, brought it down to their planet, poured the energy from that dying star into their forges. There was lava erupting all over the place. Hundreds of dwarves were smashing the crap out of this thing until it shaped itself into what would become Mjolnir. And then when it was presented to Odin as his final gift for their, saving, they're like, yeah, no, here, it's yours. We just never want to see it again, because it almost wrought destruction to their entire society trying to create this magical hammer. Unfortunately for Odin, since it was a sentient storm, so to speak, it had a mind of its own. And that's where it kind of took off. It took him around the galaxy. It brought him all over the place. He could not make it yield to his will. And ultimately it smashed into Asgard and almost destroyed the entire thing. So he used all kinds of dark magic and powers to enchant it to the point where it would never leave and no one would ever use it. And it would sit for decades, centuries, eons, just useless in his vault. Until one day you see this little tiny hand from a child named Thor that finally comes into contact with it. And that is super cool! Like, the art style from Frazer Irving, which is the guest artist that does the entire center section where this story takes place, is amazing. It's just a great visual style. I love the look of it. It's got a great feel. And the fact that Jason Aaron is telling this kind of story of a trapped sentient storm calling down the lightning. You know, basically this giant being of space powerness that is entrapped into this metal is a very cool kind of story for the hammer, rather than just like, it's a magical hammer that was forged by dwarves. It has now got this great kind of backstory that really ties it all together and makes it almost a character onto its own. And that's something that's really cool. I really hope that it's a great setup for what they kind of keyed into at the end of the book, which is a War of the Realms storyline. And that's where we're going to see much more battle-heavy intensities, and I feel like Mjolnir is going to play a big part in that. So this is a very great story to key into. Like I said, the art from Russell Dodderman is always good. The Frazer Irving art in the center section is great. I mean, overall, this is a book that you can kind of just hop onto. You don't really need to read Mighty Thor. You don't really need to read the regular Thor. You can just kind of grab this book and be like, oh, this is how Mjolnir happened. That's awesome. And that's one of the things that I love the most about it. So definitely recommend you guys going back to the shop and picking it up if you've got a copy. Who knows, might even be worth something with the secret origin of Mjolnir kind of in there. So we'll see how it's received by everybody else, but overall I was really happy with the way this is. Jason Aaron writes a great book, and I can't really recommend Mighty Thor enough. I feel like it's just hitting its stride right now, and overall Mighty Thor number 12 is a great book. Definitely something I'd recommend you guys going and checking out. So, that's my review of Mighty Thor number 12, but if you guys read it, I want to know what you guys thought about it too, so hit me up in the comments down below, and we can start chatting. As always, if you like what you see, hit that like button. Don't forget to subscribe to get more news, reviews, and commentary on comic books, comic book movies, comic book TV shows and games, and anything and everything inside the world of comics.